Was it just going live?
It's live.
Oh, we're not doing a countdown?
I guess not.
I guess not.
I think the account wiped a bunch because, like I said, that theme was off too.
That's all right. I guess we can just roll right into it. Well, welcome. If you are coming to the live stream for the very first time, my name is Dan Inman. I'm a local real estate agent here in the coastal Virginia area, and I kind of cover the live, work, play, the good, the bad, the ugly here on the channel. Tonight is a live stream, so we're going to kind of field any questions that come in, but we're going to, for the most part, cover what it is that you need to know when you're transitioning from one area to the next. If you're going to be moving into this area, what does that look like? Because that can be a big, scary move coming into a new place. And, you know, I would want some guidance myself if I was moving into a new area. I have my co-host tonight, Mr. Sean Fitzgibbons, who also does all of my camera work and drone work. So he's on the live stream as well. If you have any questions that come into your head, feel free to pop them in there into the questions. Sean will bring them up and we will cover them as they come along, if they're applicable, and at the end, if they're not. If you are coming to us for the first time, we'd love to hear from where you're listening from. We have people from all over the world that have moved into the coastal Virginia area, and mean that quite literally. People from Germany, from Pakistan, from Australia, who have moved into the area and found us through YouTube. I think we are also live on Instagram, Facebook. Where else, Mr. Jonathan?
Not Instagram, but LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube.
Got it. So yeah, if you'd let us know where you're walking tonight, we do not have a libations. Many times we have a local drink, like a vodka or gin or something like that, or a beer made by a local person. Tonight we do not have that. We do have, though, some lovely Norfolk tap water.
Some of the best tap
Of which, if you do some research on tap water, Norfolk actually has some of the cleanest water in the nation, and it has for many, many years in a row. So first and foremost, let's just kind of dive into. I want to kind of bring up the maps, because if you're looking at moving to the area, one of the big things that you want to kind of cover or understand is what is the Hampton Roads area or the coastal Virginia area, because most people who are local do not call it coastal Virginia. They call it Hampton Roads or the 7x7 or the Tidewater area. Coastal Virginia is a branding that a lot of locals have pushed for and are continuing to push for. But I think it'll be a long time before that's really kind of taken on. So our area, in the area that we service, kind of goes right here north of Williamsburg, all the way out here to the skirts. You can kind of see this is Franklin, like I had a listing that was way out here. But when people are referencing the 7 cities, when they're referencing Hampton Roads, for the most part, they're referencing Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Portsmouth, Newport News, and Hampton. You can probably go ahead and include Suffolk, and you can include Williamsburg for the most part, because again, people are looking at the coastal Virginia. They're including those, but for the most part, it's the 7: Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Hampton, and Newport News. There are some kind of rules of thumb, if you will, if you're looking at moving to the area, that like, hey, the closer you live to water, typically the more you're going to pay. All right. If you are okay with a little bit of a commute out to the beach, and you're like, hey, Dan, we're not going to go to the beach every single day. We're probably going to go 4 or 5 weekends during the summer, maybe once in the fall, once during the spring. But, you know, we want access to the beach, but it's not something that's an everyday occurrence. Or, hey, look, I've looked at the real estate prices that are closer to the beach, and it's just not something that we can quite afford. You may want to look out here in Suffolk or Carrollton or Smithfield or Newport News or even Williamsburg if you want to reduce the amount that you're going to spend, or have your dollars go a little bit further. In Virginia Beach, so we'll start here, and this is just a very broad, general overview. A lot of this will change, or when we do our one-on-one, when we sit down and actually have our Zoom, you can kind of start telling me what it is that you're looking for, and we can dive deeper into these neighborhoods. But what you generally will find is that there's kind of a South Virginia Beach and a North Virginia Beach. South Virginia Beach, there's a lot of kind of middle of the road, built out neighborhoods here in the center. And then it gets more expensive as you move south. There's a lot of new construction neighborhoods, higher end neighborhoods here into the further south that you go. And you can kind of see that we're backed up against or getting into the rural area like Pungo. But there are a lot of new construction in here, and new construction that goes up as high as $1 million, probably starting at the lowest in the 500s. But if you go up here into Windsor Woods and Chimney Hill and Salem, you're going to find kind of the median price point of homes. You're right here. You're going to be next to Lynn Haven Mall. There's plenty of shopping here, and you can kind of see there are a variety of little shopping centers spread throughout, and that will include like a Food Lion, your standard run of the mill Chinese food restaurant, the nail salon, the tanning salon. Those will all kind of be spread throughout here. What you'll find is that a lot of people will try to avoid, I would say a lot of people, some people, if they're trying to avoid air noise, they will try to avoid places like Naval Air Station Oceana or Norfolk International, or excuse me, Naval Air Station Norfolk, or maybe even staying away from the Little Creek base here, Fort Story. There's noise that just comes from the nature of it being a military base. And you can look up what's called an ACUS map. Let me pull that up. ACUS map. And if I was looking at, let's see here, Virginia Beach. And I like doing this live because you can kind of see how I see it right away. Whoops, map's not what I'm looking for. You can see that there's that very first link right there that can go in there. You can actually plug in specific addresses, if you will, if you want, that's something you want to see. But you can see right here, there's Chambers Field, and you can see the flight pattern. So if you really wanted to avoid jet noise, you'd want to stay as far away from these right here as possible. Here's Norfolk International. So this is the commercial one. You can see that, hey, if I want to avoid noise as much as possible, I want to stay away from the either side of the entry and exit of that runway. Here's Naval Air Station Norfolk, Oceana. And you can stay away from these as much as possible. What's kind of interesting, especially about Oceana, is that many of the really high-end expensive areas actually are overlaid into here. Like I know people that live here in Châtillon. I have actually 2 or 3 clients that have moved into Châtillon, Beachboro area, and they've kind of just gotten used to it. Is it frustrating to have to stop mid-conversation because there's a jet going overhead? Sure, but that's just the reality of that space. If you want to be close to the Vibe District, which is one of the most walkable areas in Virginia Beach, and also be within biking/walking distance to the beach, you want to be really close to when monster trucks are on the beach, or there's a surfing competition, or those types of events. Living in that neighborhood is really one of the downsides. Is just going to be jet noise, and something you have to get used to. Same thing right here with Bay Colony. You'll see that it's still within that flight pattern. Hilltop Shopping Center right here. Sean and I have been there multiple times to go stop and grab something to eat while we're out filming. And legitimately, halfway through our conversation, we have to stop because there's a jet going overhead. It's just part of the equation if you're going to live next to Naval Air Station Oceana. All right, so ACUS map is something that you just want to check out if that's part of it. So like I said, we're trying to cover tonight is if I'm making a move, how do I make as smart a move as possible? Now, there are plenty of people that have moved into the area, and the first thing that they do is they decide to rent. Depending on your personality type, how much risk, how much time and energy you're willing to put into research up front, you may decide, you know what, I'm going to come here, I'm going to rent for a little bit, and then I'm going to explore neighborhoods as I go. But we help a lot of families move and buy right away. I have a couple right now that's moving from Connecticut or Massachusetts. Shoot, I should know this off the top of my head. But they are buying a house in Williamsburg currently. We talked about Virginia Beach. We talked on our Zoom call. We talked about Virginia Beach. We talked about Williamsburg, the differences between the two, how far their dollar would go at the price point they were looking at. I recommended a few areas to check out. They started their search on the MLS. They came down here for a couple of days. I booked off some time on my calendar. We went out and did a bunch of showings, and we ended up making an offer and getting under contract. And they're going to fly. The other spouse is actually going to fly out here during the home inspection. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. So what I have here in my notes, my beautiful PowerPoint, is general overview of the area. Let me hit a few more here on the maps before we move forward. All right. If you're wanting old city vibes, old houses, if you're wanting a true downtown, well, Norfolk is really the only place that you're going to get that. Ghent is the community that serves as close to downtown as possible. You have the Freemason area, and there's a ton of old homes, condos. You're probably going to have the greatest diversity of like mixed use in here. You have $1 million homes next to duplexes, next to $400,000 nice little places, next to little what's the word I'm looking for? Not a condo, a cooperative that are selling for 180. There's plenty of shopping here. Tons of antique stores, places to go eat. If you're looking for a place that has high walkability, the ability to hop on your bike, go out to eat, get a haircut, go to the grocery store, and use as little car as possible, this is a great area to explore. I know a lot of people absolutely love this area. A lot of times when I'm not wanting to work from home and I just kind of want to get out, I'll go to this area and go to a coffee shop. It's just a great little place to go out and get some work done. Highly desirable area. A lot of people like living in here. The only downside I would say is actually Hampton Boulevard, which there's no getting around it. It's just a super busy road. All right. And if you're not familiar or kind of haven't really ever thought about this with Google Maps, just something to pay attention to. Any big streets like this, these tend to be streets that are far more busy. They're bigger streets. Then you get to these smaller ones, and these are a little bit more in a neighborhood. You get to the yellow one, and you're looking more at like highways or very busy streets. Green, by the way, typically is parks, and then yellow is usually industrial or shopping. It's just something to pay attention to. Pink is hospital, or orange, red. I'm not sure what color they would classify that as. If you're looking for old homes, Norfolk is one of those areas. Portsmouth has a bunch of old homes. Newport News has a bunch of old homes. But if you're looking for like, hey, Dan, I want a 1912 historical home in Virginia Beach. I'm like, cool. There are like 4 dozen of them, and they don't sell very often. So you have to be super patient if that's something that you're wanting to purchase. If you're wanting a large house on the water with deep water access, well, there's far more of that in Northern Virginia Beach than there is in South Chesapeake, or even more so in South Virginia Beach.
So go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna ask actually. No one else is asking questions, so I will. But for people who aren't in this area, maybe give some overview of like what travel times are like between all these areas that we're looking at.
Oh, good point. All right, so if this is the best way I think I know how to do this is just kind of give you let's pull a point here on the map
and give them like normal people, not your speeding. No, sorry,
not Dan Inman driving. Okay, so let's imagine you're downtown Ghent and you want to purchase there and you want to drive out to the beach. Boom, there you go. 19 miles, 25-minute drive time. Now, if you're going directly under the highway without any traffic, that's probably a pretty good estimate. One of the things they have here on Google Maps, you can go in here and hit depart by, which is a really helpful tool. So if you kind of want to see historically what traffic has included, you can kind of do that and tinker with those times right there. Did you know you could do that?
I did not. That's cool.
There you go. But yeah, you can also go in here and say, I want to avoid tolls or I want to avoid the highways. You can kind of, you can play with these types of things.
For example, if you put that on the tunnel at 4 o'clock.
Yeah. So like
time to get to Williamsburg.
If I was driving from, from downtown Norfolk up to Newport News and I had to go through this tunnel, man, do you want to avoid this between like 3 and 6 o'clock? Because it is miserable. Now, I say miserable. I've had many people, including myself, who have driven. I've driven in New York. I've driven in Los Angeles. I've driven in DC. And I've been in like traffic where you sit for an hour.
Yeah.
It's typically not nearly that bad.
Yeah.
Like it's going to add 15 minutes on a bad day. On a bad day. So for the locals, it doesn't keep them from complaining about the extra time, but it's not all that important. As an example, we don't live too far from here, from this location right here. If we wanted to go to a beach, we could go to Ocean View, and we typically go down here to East Beach. Well, that's 9 miles, but that drive is actually let me get rid of the depart time. How do I do it? That's what. No. 20 minutes is pretty normal, and it's kind of interesting, of if if I wanted to, the main reason to go from here versus down to the ocean front would really actually be to avoid tourists and that type of thing. The other piece is if you have younger kids, being on the north side here on the Chesapeake Bay, you're going to get far less, what's the word I'm looking for? Waves. It's going to be a little less rough. It's kind of nicer if you have younger children. But if you're wanting to get out there and you really want to hit the waves and you really want that beach feeling with the ton of sand, deep beaches, this is the place to go. And
comment here, I'll read to you from David Warfel. Said, great content as always, Dan.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it, brother. But it's interesting to me. Like, I know a lot of people that would say that, well, they go to Ocean View because they don't want to drive all the way to the ocean front. I'm like, okay, like without traffic, we're talking about maybe 5 or 6 minutes difference. And if you're traveling with kids, that just means one has to go potty before they leave the house. Like, that's just,
yeah. Depends where you live in Norfolk too.
Yeah, fair enough. But this is coming from like the ODU area. So let me zoom out a little bit. If you're looking for new construction, it's not that there aren't houses being torn down and built in this section of Virginia Beach or Norfolk or even Chesapeake, but the majority of it, the places where builders are going in and developing a large community, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus homes, 100 plus homes with pools and amenities and that type of thing, that's mostly being done in Virginia Beach, Southern Virginia Beach, and Southern Chesapeake and Suffolk. Suffolk being, I think, over the next couple of years is really going to be the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the opposite of problem child, the favorite child. I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say, but this is going to be the area where a ton of new construction is going on. Chesapeake's got a lot going on and has had in the past, but it's just going to expand probably a lot into Suffolk, into Smithfield. There's a lot of that going on. If you're one of the things I think agents tend to be a little bit nervous talking about is crime, because they don't want to be seen as steering or discriminating in any direction. The easiest way to kind of get around this or to advise in this area, in my opinion, is to point to objective data. So you can go in and you can type in Norfolk crime map or any city in particular, Newport News, Washington, D.C., whatever. A lot of these cities have crime mapping tools that you can go and look at. And so you can see what concentration of crime is happening, how often is it happening, what type of crime is happening there. And that's one good way. Another one is crimegrade.org. This is being recorded, by the way, so it'll go on YouTube. You can always go back and rewatch this. But crimegrade.org is another one of those where, again, they're going through and you can type in the zip code 23456. That's the one in Virginia Beach. And you can see what crime is being reporting where. Now, one of the downsides of this map is you can see that it's being reported in large chunks of area. Trulia used to have the best one, hands down, and it was like literally block by block, and it was a heat map. It was really good, but they took it down off of their site, and so it's no longer there. You could, what's the other one I'm looking for? Neighborhood Scout. Yep, neighborhoodscout.com. It's not a bad one. The only downside of this one is it costs money. So if you're going to be buying a house, and I'm going to argue if you're going to spend $500,000 on a home, it might be worth paying 50, 60, 70, $80 for something that puts all the information together and makes it easy to read. I've had several clients that they've liked this one. All right, let me back out of that. All right, let me go over here. The next kind of piece that we're going to talk about that was a very, very brief overview. There's a lot of nuance to our area. There are different price points. Really, at the end of the day, what we need to do is you and I need to hop on a Zoom call. Because if you say, hey, Dan, my budget is between $350 and $450, and this is the lifestyle that I want, and I want to go to public schools, not private schools, I'm going to probably give you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 neighborhoods for you to consider. If you tell me, hey, Dan, I want to be on the water and I want deep water access, I'm going to give different recommendations. And so really what we need to do is first is we got to establish your timeline. Are we looking like right now to the next couple of months? Are we looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months from now? Are we looking at a year out from now? I don't mind hopping on a call. I don't mind talking as early as a year out or even more, because you kind of want to get an idea, your head wrapped around, especially if you're looking at retiring and you're going to buy a forever home. You want to make sure that you're making a wise decision. So I would say once you have kind of established like, hey, I'm really interested in this area, we need to hop on a Zoom call and we're going to talk about timeline and what that looks like. The next thing that we're going to do is kind of get an idea of, based off your price, schools, and lifestyle, really what neighborhoods I think would be worthy of consideration. And then the next step is you want to hop on the MLS, right? So if you're 6 months out, what I would say is, cool, hey, let's go ahead and get an idea of a good time to visit. If you're 6 months out, maybe 2 or 3 months from that conversation, or we set it up so that you come out and actually visit this area. You can read all the crime statistics that you want. You can go and watch my YouTube videos all you want. And videos are great, but nothing, absolutely nothing replaces your gut feel on a place, right? I have my background, what I grew up with, my biases, just like anybody else, and what I'm comfortable with. And the only person that you get to define what's safe, what's comfortable, what's good is you. And so you can only do that by being physically in a space. And so what I would recommend is that you go, okay, well, I have these 10 neighborhoods that Dan suggested. I'm going to come here for a long weekend. I'm going to go drive those neighborhoods. And once I kind of drive those 10 neighborhoods, I go, man, these 5 or these 4 are my absolute favorite. Well, then in my recommendation is, would you go there at dusk? That's when all the families are taking their dogs out to walk, their kids are out playing, people are coming home from school. And you get a really good sense and feel for what that neighborhood is like. You can get a really good sense and feel for when you have the ability, and I would say go there, take your dog. Or if you have kids, like go out for a walk and go to the local park. Start chatting with the neighbors. How long have you lived here? How do you like the public schools? There's just nothing that can replace that. And again, if we're going to spend $250, $500, $750, $1 million on a house, coming in here for a vacation for a long weekend and doing this, I think, in my opinion, is super worthwhile. All right, after that long weekend, and you okay, cool. I have these 4 neighborhoods that I have locked it down. These are the ones that I'm super interested in. If something popped up in there, I know that I would make an offer. Okay, well, we'll go back to watching the MLS, right? We're 5 months out, and you go, cool. Based on the timeline I talked with Dan, we need to start making offers about 60 days out or 30 days out or something along those lines. Again, some of my advice is going to change based on whether you have a house to sell, what's your risk tolerance, what exactly you're looking for. Some houses are and criteria are just more picky than others. And we can look on the MLS and I'm going to go, hey, tell me exactly what you're looking for. We're going to go through and we're going to look at, okay, well, what's the last 2 years of sales that have popped up in that price range, exactly what you're looking for. And I go, hey, look, on average, 1 house a month pops up. All right, well, then you need to be a little more vigilant at looking at houses than someone where there's 5 or 6 houses a month that pop up. Once you've got an idea of that, for the next 2 or 3 months, what you're going to do is you're going to watch the MLS. What comes up, what sells, how quickly does it sell above or below list price, that type of thing. So that when the time comes to make a purchase, what I have found is that most of frustration and anxiety comes from the unknown. People get anxious when they feel like they don't understand something or don't have control over something, when they don't feel like they have a grasp on something. And when you have watched the MLS, when you've gone to those neighborhoods and something pops up, the confidence that you have, you go, boom, I want to go see that one. Now that's going to manifest in several different ways. So one of the things that we've done a lot for people is sometimes we show in person. Hey, Dan, I'm going to be in town for this week. All right. I'm going to be there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Cool. I will block off a couple hour period, chunk of time for those 3 days for you. We'll set up as many showings as possible. In a limited inventory market, you're kind of crunching into a very short time frame your capacity for what you can go search for, because it's only going to be the stuff that's on the MLS at that moment. If you feel a little more comfortable, let's say we did look at homes, but you're like, all right, now I've seen what's on there. I trust Dan to help me walk through this process, and we've done this quite a bit. We have taken people where they have looked at homes virtually, did an inspection virtually, did the walkthrough virtually, did closing virtually, and didn't actually even see the house till they'd moved here. That's happened multiple times. But for some people, it's, hey, I'm willing to do virtual showings, but we're going to negotiate in a home inspection, and we'll fly out during the home inspection to make sure that this is the area that I want to be in. Remember, we've already kind of been here. You've already come in for a visit. Or at least that, in my opinion, that would be the ideal process so far. But we have done it. We have the tools, the software, and the experience necessary so that if you want to do virtual showings, and we use a software called Loom, where I go out and I'll record the showing, and I'll do zoom ins on here's what the grout condition looks like, here's what the caulking looks like on the windows, here's what it looks like on the side of the house. Is it power washed? Are people taking care of their house? Is there any rot along the garage door framing? Like when I'm showing the house, I'm going in, I'm not just kind of doing these pans, I'm kind of giving you the details as well. Now, obviously, if you have a home inspection, you'll also get a detailed report of the condition and of the mechanicals and the house in general. And you'll also have the opportunity, and if you want to fly out, you can, or I can do the home inspection. We can do a video review. We can talk about that. You have the opportunity to talk to the home inspector on the phone if that's something you want to do. And then we have appraisal, and then basically, closing. So that's a very quick overview of what in my opinion, is like an ideal process. Let's have a conversation as early as possible. Let's establish what your timeline is and what you're trying to accomplish by what time frame. Do you have a house to sell? Do you have a home sale contingency? Is this your first home that you've ever purchased? Is this an investment property? Is this a vacation property? All of these little things will influence how the advice is given. Then we're going to establish some neighborhoods, the price points, schools and lifestyles is going to really influence that. Then we're going to watch the MLS, right? And then you're going to hopefully come for a visit. And depending on your schedule and your availability, you may come again to see homes, or you may end up doing some virtual stuff. That's it. That is the ideal process in a can. Anything else, Sean? Any questions over there?
No, we don't have any questions in here yet. But I was going to say one of the things, maybe for people who haven't decided on this area, maybe just give us like your top 5 things that they really need to know specific to this area.
Good point. Yeah.
Run down that maybe.
Yeah. Like, I have a hard time not just pointing to the videos that we've done on YouTube that just talk about like the 7 major cons, like jet noise. Sometimes people get really irritated by jet noise. I had quite a few clients that have moved into the area, and one of their like big was like, I don't want to be around jet noise. I'm like, cool. You need to, every property that you look at and think about buying, run it across that ACUS map and see how close you are to those areas. Another one is just whether you like it or not, we're a coastal city. Right. So there is flooding. Right. And so flood risk, if you type in flood risk, it's riskfactor.com right here. They changed the name of the website. You can also look at, this Virginia Flood Risk Information Systems. You can check the FEMA flood maps to see if it's in a flood zone. That's pretty easy. This one is pretty good. It used to be free. They changed it to charge the first, if you want to use this, I think the first 7 days is free, if I remember correctly, for the consumer. I'm trying to talk my broker into seeing if we can get this for the brokerage so that we can offer it to our clients. But if you are very anxious about floods and want to see all the knowledge that you can possibly get, you can do this. And then they also have some options where you can pay for it. I kind of go back to, if we're going to spend $1 million on a home, $500,000 on a home, it may be worth paying, $100 or so to have another tool to kind of have in your toolbox. Of course, you can always ask the agent that you're working with. Hopefully that's going to be me. When you're looking, and I can give you kind of my personal insights into certain areas. But really, you're going to want to run that by your insurance carrier. So jet noise, flooding is just a reality. Personally, some people would complain about traffic. I just think it's so minor here. Even when it's bad, it's really not that bad. Or just avoid those times to drive if that's something that you can do. Mosquitoes. Good Lord. If you're in an area where it's low-lying water or still water, let me give you this point. The Great Dismal Swamp down there in Chesapeake, Mosquitoes are so bad that literally mosquito treatment is part of your property taxes down in Chesapeake. There's an additional line item in there to keep those at bay as much as possible. So mosquitoes is just a reality. The other one is if you're going to be going to or close to the ocean front during tourist season, which is what's the word I'm looking for? July 4th weekend to Labor Day weekend. There are a lot of tourists. This is a destination for people that are within driving distance to go and go on vacation. The North End has a lot of people that use those as second homes to vacation in. Really hard to find parking in there. Personally, it's not the best beach that's out there. There are other beaches I've enjoyed more, but I live here, and I mean, I don't want to dog on it. Like, yeah, you can go down to Pensacola or Alice Beach, and you have this perfectly fine white sands and that type of thing, and the water is a little bluer. But to be honest, I've really come to enjoy this area. But the tourist season is a huge pain in the ass, especially when getting down there and driving around. It's awful. Let's see, what else would I add? I would also make arguments for we have decent nightlife here. It's okay. It's a little you have like bougie spots like Pacifica and like where people that are going to really spend money and drink with their pinkies out.
You are, Dan.
Bougie. But then there are also a good mixture of like just cheesy dive bars and that type of thing. No dog on it. I've enjoyed both. It's not that I don't enjoy going to Bird and Baldwin and eating a ridiculously expensive meal. And I don't mind going to a local bar and listening to someone sing terrible karaoke. But when it comes to like lots of high-end nightlife, like Miami and maybe San Diego, LA we just don't have a ton of that here. Town Center we have a couple of comedy clubs. We've got the Virginia Beach Amphitheater. There's a decent amount to do here. Most of it is family oriented. Most of it is vacation oriented because they're trying to cater to a certain market. So that is one of the things I would say is a potential downside. Upsides, though, man, I tell you what.
Forgot one of your downsides, though.
What's that?
The humidity.
Oh, humidity. Okay, yeah, we can't skip on that one. Humidity from late spring to early fall is a nightmare.
If you're from the West, you don't know what it's like.
Yeah, if you grew up in Texas or Colorado or the West, man, you better be prepared. Now, I grew up in Texas, but also lived in Alabama. So I lived in deep South Alabama for a while. So I was ready for it. But it still doesn't change the fact that during deep like summer, you're walking outside and you immediately got pit stains. It's just so hot. You immediately sweat. So make sure when you get a home inspection, make sure your HVAC is working when you do that. But yeah, humidity can be miserable. But the upside is that fall is around the corner. And so like we've had like today's weather was glorious. Low humidity, high of like 74. It was just beautiful. Sean was out filming today and doing some drone work. I mean, it was just really nice outside. Yeah. I went out this weekend and went for, I'm going to go for a walk. I've been trying to lose some weight. And so I've been doing evening walks as well. It's just really nice. I'm looking forward to it. Summer, not so much. Walking outside and just feels like you're walking through a wet blanket. Yeah. But I've genuinely come to love this area. I've been here for 20 years. It's not that, if my kids got older and grew up, I wouldn't consider potentially moving to another area. But for the time that I've been here, I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would add is I think the best thing about this area is you get a little bit of everything. You have the beach, you have the country, not too far from the mountains. If you want that nightlife, you can go find it. If you want that old city vibe, it's just it's
arts districts, festivals,
military. If you like military group, you're just gonna have your groups of people and areas that you can go to. That I don't know. To me, other places I've been,
surfer group, equestrian groups.
We are a beach town. We are this.
Yeah.
You just get a lot of everything here.
Hampton Roads is a big melting pot for sure. Yeah, if it would surprise me if you cannot find your tribe here.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's wrap it up.
All right. See you guys.